I was working on a post for the page this week and decided to change the topic. Things have happened in the last few days, and I felt that I wanted to address those. In the past few days, there have been a number of speeches by significant people messaging those, most prominently Presidents Bush and Obama. The comments made by each of those and the follow-up in the media and on social media has implied that these speeches were directed at the conduct of President Trump. I think there were some aspects of President Bush's speech that are more broad in scope, and I'd like to address those. Specifically, these couple of comments. Yet for years, challenges have been gathering to the principles we hold dear. And another one. In recent decades, public confidence in our institutions has declined. Now, the phrases "for years" and "in recent decades" indicates that this is not a new problem. This is not a problem that has come up in the last 10 months. But it's been something that's been far more long-lasting than that. And I'm not sure if it was the intention of President Bush to indicate that, but I think those comments are also able to be applied to the problem that we have with political bigotry. Now, what exactly do we mean when we say bigotry? Normally in this country, with our history, the implication is to talk about racial bigotry. But in a broad sense, bigotry is when a person holds prejudicial attitudes that are directed at a person or a group meant to be used negatively or demeaning in some way. And that could be it could be racially, or it could have to do with gender or religion or sexual orientation or a number of things. Now, most of the time bigotry is obvious. Okay? Statements like, black people simply aren't as intelligent as white people. Or any man is better than every woman. Or the reverse of that I've seen in feminist sources that claim that any woman is better than every man. Something like Muslims are all terrorists, or gay people are just naturally promiscuous. We know that all of those statements are false. We know that those statements are false and based in bigotry. Now, we don't have a perfect society, but we have progressed to the point where we do not tolerate attitudes like that or behavior based on those attitudes. All right? We recognize it, and it's not acceptable. So what about these? Trump supporters are just uneducated and stupid. Liberals are a bunch of entitled whiners. Democrats are all corrupt and liars. Republicans are all greedy and only care about themselves. Now, we know that those statements are also false and are also based in bigotry. So why aren't we treating it the same way? Why are we not speaking honestly and openly and calling this what it is? Political bigotry. Now, Joey Clark authored an article which was reprinted on the Foundation for Economic Education website. And he makes the case for political bigotry being, quote, the most pervasive form of bigotry in the United States today. I agree. And I don't know any well-reasoning person who could not say that that's true. Political bigotry is the only one of our prejudicial issues that is not only tolerated, but actually encouraged. Again, some excerpts from President Bush's speech. Discontent deepened and sharpened partisan conflicts. Bigotry seems emboldened. And this one. We have seen our discourse degraded by casual cruelty. And argument turns too easily into animosity. Disagreement escalates into dehumanization. Now, there's no doubt that President Trump has exacerbated this situation. But it has existed long before he was a candidate, and he is far from the only practitioner. For every insulting tweet that we get from President Trump, there's also another one, someone who is calling citizens of the United States deplorable, or a state senator who is hoping for the assassination of the president, or an entertainer who poses with the decapitated head of the president. Now, these are all at least easily seen. What isn't so easily seen are more common, I think, and more subtle versions of people who claim to be critics and claim to be objective, but clearly their positions are one-sided. Most commonly, that's with the media, but I think that's for another episode. We've seen in social media, though, the amount of political bigotry increase exponentially in the past two administrations. The standard now is for people to pick a side on the left or the right and to intensely criticize anyone on the opposing side while giving everyone on their own side a free pass. Now, this is political extremism, or this is political bigotry in the extreme. We live in a society that's not perfect. We use a form of government that, while it is superior to anything else in the world, is also not perfect. But it seems grossly unfair and entirely unrealistic and completely unproductive to constantly be pointing fingers at other people and not take responsibility for ourselves. There's sometimes a fine line between placing blame and analyzing mistakes. But I think we do far too much of the former. Now, is this too great a problem for us to fix? Is this something that is so ingrained in society that that it's so natural now that we can't do anything about it? It's just the way things are. There have been a couple of situations in just the last few election cycles that illustrate the systemic effects of of political bigotry and how deeply it is sown into who we are now. In 2010, Scott Walker was elected the governor of Wisconsin. Now, before he even took office, there was a movement started for a recall election. Most recently, in the presidential election of last year, there were people in Congress who were using the word impeachment before Donald Trump had even taken the oath of office. So now you've got two situations, significant situations, where the winners of legally held elections are being targeted by people who want to remove them from office before they've even taken office. We need to be brutally honest here, okay? The reason for both of these circumstances with this, some people just did not like who won the election, okay? Some can attempt to reason that away or rationalize it in some fashion, but the plain fact is that both of these circumstances were the results of political bigotry, plain and simple. Political bigotry has got to stop. The idea that there's only one way to see an issue, and that anyone who doesn't see the issue in that same way is evil, that's a completely foreign way of thinking to Americans. All right? This country is the leader in the world that it is today because of creativity and innovation, not thinking the same way that everyone else does. To insult and attack anyone who has a differing opinion is simply unacceptable. If it's the way that we are, it's not the way that we want to be. Freedom of speech covers a lot of ground. And I am not suggesting limits to freedom of speech. What I am saying is that we need to make more judicious and considered and thoughtful and civil use of that freedom. There are a number of situations that I could cite, but I'll mention a few. Okay. President Trump, please stop tweeting. Respectfully, sir, it doesn't help. The tweets that you're sending out are more antagonistic in their consequences rather than being the explanations and support of the policies that you're trying to implement. What we need is a president who will be intelligent and compassionate and will show us strength without being demeaning. Representative Frederica Wilson, please stop. Just stop. You have, by your own words, become a rock star. Okay? We don't need a rock star in the Congress. What we need is lawmakers who will be collaborative in their efforts in solving the problems of the issues of this country. Okay? Not grandstanding, but working towards serious issues. Special Counsel Robert Mueller. I'm assuming that in the efforts that you're making in investigating the possibility or the extent of Russian involvement and influence in the 2016 election, that you are also interviewing any Democrat who had any contact with any Russian official in the past couple of years. I also hope that you extend your investigation to include the DNC to determine whether or not there were efforts made to rig the primaries against Bernie Sanders. That may or may not be within the purview of this assignment. But the rationale that was presented for a special counsel was that we needed to restore the confidence of the American people in the integrity of our election system. Now, if we want to do that, we want to know that our elections are honest and fair. And to be able to do that, we need to know that all parties are clean. To investigate only one side and give the other side a free pass is perpetuating the political bigotry that we need to avoid. Political bigotry has got to stop. I can see that. And I am not going to stop using that term. I'm going to keep using that term. It's ugly. And people don't want to hear it. People don't want to talk about it. But it's the most honest description of the most significant factor in the division in our country that we're experiencing right now. And we've got to change that. We've got to change it. Thank you for watching.